Okay, so today I'm going to teach you guys how to properly nade. There's typically 3 to 4 ways that you can nade that are like most important. For far nading, when you're far nading, you want to actually use either FVP or the eyeball. For the eyeball, you mainly want to use it when you're like pre-planning your nades and nothing's chaotic or hectic and you're not getting pushed or anything, so that you're capable of landing a really perfectly timed nade. You want to use FPP for quite the opposite of that. So chaotic, hectic, when you're not able to like when you're actually no when you have no choice but to think properly. I mean not properly, quickly. You would typically just go straight into FPP so you could see more, because if you're not in FPP, as you can see, you don't really see as much. You see way more in FPP when it comes to nading. Uh, but yeah, so for far nades, when you're throwing a far nade, you for a distance like
Watch out!
this, when you're throwing a distance like this, you want to hold it for about 4 seconds so that it detonates on impact. For something like
Watch out!
this, you could hold it for about 5 seconds since it's a little further so that it detonates on impact. Maybe gets like 1 or 2 bounces before it detonates. That's usually for far nading. You want to hold it for about 4.5 to 5 seconds. Actually, 4.5 to 5 seconds. That's the range you would want to use when it comes to nading far. When it's too far, then you pretty much hold it for like 6 seconds, or in some cases you even throw it uncooked, especially if you're going
Watch
for like a
out!
jump nade here. But that's not really the point of this. The point is to use nades that aren't too far, and so that you could get the knock immediately, unless they already see it coming. For a close range nade, or even just a mid range nade for something like this, I would say 2.5 to 3 seconds work best, or actually just about 3 seconds. 3 seconds should be just fine when it comes to mid range nades. It would give one bounce and then it explodes. When you're throwing any kind of nade, unless it's like really close to you, you only want to allow it a bounce or two before it explodes. Anything more than that, the player that you're trying to knock will have enough time to leave that position and not get knocked with a nade. It would still get him low, just it wouldn't confirm the knock. Another thing you could use nades for is defense. So if you're getting crashed by like a US Dacia, like any moving vehicle that's crashing your window, let's say they crash right here,
Watch out!
you could throw a half-second nade, like right in their face, especially if you're not gonna bounce it. You throw it right like that. The issue with this is you don't want to do it if you have ping that's like, I don't know, I would say over 100, maybe actually over 60. Yeah, over 60, I wouldn't recommend something like this. If it is over 60, you could do like a second and a half to 2 seconds, and then as they push this window, they're
Watch
just
out!
gonna run right into the nade and they're dead. Uh, Another thing for this is if they're just pushing on foot. Basically, the same thing works. They're right there.
Watch out!
You hold this for about a second max, and then it blows up on impact. Literally gives him like no way to move, unless again he already knows that you're gonna do it, or he hears your pin or something like that. Uh, Usually if you're doing anything, you should always assume that you're gonna get naded in one way or another. Uh, Not many pros or casual players, I would say, actually both. Not many of them really know how to perfectly time their nades, and for good reason too. Typically because for pros it's like end circle, everything's hectic. You're making callouts. Not many of them goes into FEP either. I noticed that as well. Not many uses the eyeball. Some of them do, but not all of them. So you really want to like utilize those two things as much as you can. Um, Another way you could use nades is for baiting. Uh, Basically like pulling the pin. A lot of people does this. Usually this doesn't work because someone will know you're baiting. Uh, it's more like a it's more like an intuition thing. If you're just pulling the pin, like if you're standing right here and pulling the pin, they're 100% gonna think you're baiting because no one would typically just do it like this. Because if you pull it right here, he can literally just push in, go right here, and then knock you
Watch out!
unless you pull back. But then he would just know you're actually nading, and then he would run out the building. So something like this only works when the players have no time to think. So again, it's like chaotic and hectic. Uh, I would say a better way to nade or bait your nade. Aside from that, don't get me wrong, that's a really good way. Uh, but a better way to bait would be. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so this isn't really a good building to do it in, but it is only training room. So a good way to bait would just be like to throw an uncooked nade. So let's say there's a guy prone,
Watch
and
out!
for some reason you can't just walk in and shoot him from here or from here. You would throw the uncooked nade, and then as he's unproning, you just go ahead and shoot him. In some cases, you would either knock him or get him like extremely low. In some cases, they'll just stay there because they know they're dead, because there's a nade and you're watching the cross. This works perfect for crosses as well, by the way. In other cases, you just get him 1 HP and then you push him and you kill him. Uh, you could do this on a ridge too, but it is a little bit more complicated. So I would only recommend doing that when you're like four-man pushing a team because that's when things start to get chaotic, and if they're already like throwing smokes to cover themselves, they won't be able most of the times they won't be able to differentiate which is a nade and which isn't. So yeah, that's pretty much the most important ways that you would want to use a nade.